over the end of a vacuum cleaner just to suck up all the excess grass. Now the grass is all glued and dried, I'll then go back in with some more greeny textures to build up some more natural looking layers of vegetation. One of the main reasons that I left this right side of the diorama in the raw foam rather than covering it with the sculptor mold is that it makes it a lot easier to stick these little root nodules into the foam rather than the hard sculptor mold. I'll just continue to add these little roots into areas where, roots would naturally stick out of the earth. Now to give a more natural looking appearance to the grassy sections of the diorama, I'll grab these little grass tufts that I have which are a bit taller in height than the static grass. Gluing these down in random spots will give a lot more variation to the beds of grass and make it look a lot more realistic. Venturing outside, I found this cool little root in my backyard, so after trimming it down and giving it a little wash in oil paint, I'll then attach it to the diorama using a few dabs of super glue. I think it gives a really nice variation compared to the smaller roots which are on the right side of the diorama. Next I'll grab these extra long blades of grass which I'll be using to create some reeds and other water plants in the swampy X section of the diorama. Adding a dab of super glue right into the center of these blades of grass lets me cut them in half and create the perfect length for the reeds of grass for this scale of diorama. The beads of super glue that are visible where I've attached the grass to the diorama will all be covered in resin later in the process, so that'll all be hidden later. When I was out looking at one of my local foam workshop, I found this really cool red flower that I guess is used for flower bouquets, but I thought it would be really cool to add some colour variation to the potted plants down the swampy section of the diorama. Then again, I just glued those down into little clumps that'll be then covered with the resin later. Next, I felt that the trees, they looked a bit, bare and dead compared to the, vibrant greens of the rest of the diorama. So I grabbed this mossy texture and started to attach it to the trees to give it the appearance of, vines and hanging vegetation growing on the dead trees. I think these vines really helped blend in these sort of dead, stark trees with the, very vibrant textures of grass and moss that are surrounding the diorama. I wanted to bring in a bit more of the magical thing in the waterfall game, so I pressed out these room stones and include them in areas of the diorama. I thought it would be really interesting to have two of the rooms straddling each side of the waterfall to sort of make it feel like a mystical and sort of spiritual area. I then printed out these really cool little sticks that have some mushrooms growing on them and painted those. Then once again, just gluing those down into select areas in the diorama. The area I'm referencing from the God of War games had this Nornir chest and a few of these bell seals, so I wanted to include those in the diorama as well. So I just printed off and painted some of those and then got them stuck into the diorama. I didn't really have space for the third bell seal, so in my mind, this seal has just been knocked off its little plinth and is now floating in the water. Of course, we can't have the seals without the chest, so printed that off and got it painted, and then once again, just glued that down into the watery section of the diorama. This will be floating in the water, sort of like it's half submerged in the swamp. And with that, the diorama is ready for the resin pour. So I just mixed up the part A and part B, and then grabbed this dark brown, olive pigment to add to the resin. I then actually added a little bit more green just to give it more of a swampy, sort of dirty look to the water. I can then start carefully pouring that down onto the diorama, making sure not to spill it onto any of the grass or the chests or any area that I really didn't want it. The ground was a bit uneven, so I actually had to pour it in, little sections to really make it fill up exactly where I want it to go. It should auto level eventually, but this just made it a little bit faster. I then grabbed a little syringe and sucked up some of the resin into that. This will just then let me carefully place it up into the river section where the waterfall will flow from. It was going to be pretty much impossible to pour that in a larger bucket without spilling it on all the reeds and grass up there. I could then also use the syringe to give a really wet look underneath and around where the waterfall will be flowing and naturally splash a lot of water onto those rocks and grass there. And with that, the diorama base is pretty much done.
While we wait for this resin to dry, we'll jump back and finish the paint job on Thor.
Again, really similar process to get Thor painted up, just base coating with the airbrush, blocking out the flat colours on the torso and legs of Thor. Once I've painted all the fine details on the chest and legs of Thor, I can then come back in with an oil wash and then removing that with a makeup brush will give a really nice weathered look to the armor and body plates of Thor. I'll then continue on painting all the fine details on Thor's weapons and his head. And with those all finished, I can then glue all these separate pieces together. Now we just have one final step to get the diorama finished, and that's creating the waterfall. To achieve this, I'll first grab this clear adhesive and then start squirting it onto some non-stick baking paper. This creates a really nice clear base for the waterfall, which I can then add on some water effects to. Once the clear adhesive is pretty much dry, I can actually use its own adhesive properties to glue it to the diorama. I'll then come back over with some water effects and a bit of snow powder to give it a nice frothy and churned up look to the waterfall. And with that, the diorama is actually done. So to enter to win this diorama, literally all you have to do is make sure you're subscribed and then go down in the comments and let me know what 2 characters from different genres or movies or games that I should battle against each other in my next diorama. Big shout out to April, who won the diorama in my last video. I'll be shipping that out to her this week. And again, thank you to everyone who commented the last video. I actually got so many awesome ideas from all your comments. And if you enjoyed the video, it would really help out if you hit that like button. Now on with the reveal.
Alvo abatido, marcando o resto deles.